What's up guys, welcome to another Master Duel deck profile. It's Vox and today I'm going to be showing to you guys the D.D.D. Before we go into the deck profile, you know what to do. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave feedback in the comments down below. Let's go straight into the deck profile with the hand traps first. We're playing triple Maxi with triple Ash, 1 Nibiru, 1 Infinity Permanence, and because we play Crossroad Designator obviously, and with the 2 Called by the Grave, the standard hand trap lineup usually, and I suggest you that since Crossroad Designator got limited, now it's a perfect addition to any deck, because most of the times, most of the decks have trouble filling out the 40 card space for their main decks, and usually Crossroad Designator with a few one-off of the hand traps is a perfect fit, especially for the hand traps that usually your deck loses to. Now let's go straight into the D.D.D monsters and the starters. We will start with the D.D Sword Slime. It's a 2-level fiend. What it does, if this card is in your hand, you can fusion summon 1 D.D.D fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand as fusion materials, including this card, and then you can banish this card from your graveyard and you can special summon 1 D.D monster from your hand. Basically, an incredible starter for you. Usually you will use this and your one of bricks that you have in your deck, whether that is your Necro Slime, your D.D Lamia, etc., to go into your fusion monsters, the Flame King Genkis, or sometimes even your High King Genkins, depending on what hand you have, so you can continue your combos. And now for the starters for the deck, we're playing triple D.D Savant Kepler. His pendulum effect is, you cannot pendulum summon monsters except D.D monsters. This effect cannot be negated. Once per turn, during your standby phase, reduce this card's pendulum scale by 2, minimum 1, then destroy all monsters you control with a level greater than or equal to this card's pendulum scale. Most of the times, if ever, you will never use this card as a pendulum scale, but still, sometimes it can come up. And its actual effect is, if this card is normal special summoned, you can activate one of these effects. The first effect is, target 1 D.D card you control, return it to the hand. This can actually come up sometimes, but the second effect is, add 1 Dark Contract card from your deck into your hand. And usually what you would search with this is either your Dark Contract with a gate to search one of your D.D monsters, or you would search your Dark Contract with a Swamp King to basically Miracle Fusion, basically to use materials from the graveyard to banish them to fusion summon. And the other starter for the deck is, we run triple D.D Savant Copernicus. His pendulum effect is, you cannot pendulum summon monsters except D.D monsters. This effect cannot be negated. Once per turn, while this card is in your pendulum zone, you can negate an activated spell effect that would inflict damage to you, then destroy this card. Basically, we don't really care about this pendulum effect specifically for both these two starters. But again, his monster effect is, if this card is normal special summoned, you can send 1 D.D or Dark Contract card from your deck to your graveyard, except himself. Basically, with this, what you can do depending on your hand, you could send your D.D Necro Slime to fusion off of the graveyard, you could send your D.D Lamia to extend so you can go into your D.D Abyss King Gilgamesh, you could send your Vice Typhon and then use her effect to go into your Flame King Genkis to help with your combos, to resurrect from the graveyard, to basically, literally, quite literally help you with your combos. You could even dump Dark Contract with a patent license to use a graveyard effect to recur one of your D.D monsters from graveyard to your hand. You get the idea. You have many targets with this deck. And these two monsters, the D.D Savant Kepler, the Copernicus, and the Dark Contract with the Gate, is basically your best starters. Any combination with these 3 cards that I just explained can get you full combo. And obviously, the cherry on top is if you have also D.D Sword Slime, because it's quite an incredible card. Now for the one of breaks that we almost never want to draw, 1 D.D Necro Slime. If this card is in your graveyard, you can fusion summon 1 D.D fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from your graveyard, including this card. Basically, you need to either, when you draw this, send this to the graveyard immediately with a discard effect, or with a D.D Sword Slime, for example, get into the graveyard and then use the effect to fusion summon again. Quite an incredible card, but you only need it once. Then we run 1 D.D Lamia. It's a level 1 and tuner. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send 1 D.D or Dark Contract card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, except yourself, to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can actually use D.D Lamia if you also play a D.D Oracle King Dark into your deck to go into an easy Curse King Siegfried, but because I do not run a Dark, D.D. Lamia for me is basically a free extender or a free discard if I have a brick, as I've said previously, with cards like D.D. Necroslime, to get it into the field and then use it to go into an easy D.D. Abyss King Gilgamesh. Then for the other one-offs, we're also playing one D.D. Cerberus. Once per turn, this is pendulum effect, you can target one D.D. monster you control, change its level to 4, and if you do, it gains 400 attack and defense. Basically, this effect can get you into an easy D.D. Wave King Caesar, because his level manipulation effect to change any monster that you have to force, because there could be situations where into your combo, and I think I have a replay to showcase, you will have a D.D. Savan Kepler, for example, and then a Griffon, and because D.D. Savan Kepler is 1 and Griffon is 4, with Cerberus, you can basically get your Kepler to 4 and then go into an easy Wave King Caesar. And he's also one of the 2 scales that you would use if you go into your Abyss King Gilgamesh on the first effect to get the 2 pendulum scales. You would usually get the Rage package, which is that's basically what it's called, and you would use 1 D.D. Cerberus with the Go D.D.D. Divine King Zero King Rage. But before we go into that, let's continue with what he does. And his actual effect: when this card is pendulum summoned from your hand while you control a D.D. monster other than himself, you can target one continuous spell card in your graveyard, add into your hand. This effect most likely will never come up if you learn how to play this deck and get to its combo consistently, but it's something that can actually come up sometimes. Then for the other one-offs, and also something that I forgot as well, I also play 1 token collector for the hand traps. I don't know why I did not say it. Either way. Then for the other one-off, 1 D.D. Vice Typhon. It's a level 7. When this card is normal summoned, you contribute 1 D.D. monster, special summon 1 level 7 D.D.D. monster from your deck. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, because it was sent there this turn, you can fusion summon a level 8 or higher D.D.D. fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed of your graveyard, including this card. So basically, D.D. Vice Typhon is a bigger Necroslime, and it's one of the cards that you want to send to the graveyard to go into your Flame King, to your D.D.D. Flame High King Genkis, which is an easy target. Then for the other one-offs that we have is 1 D.D.D. Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. His pendulum effect is, if you special summon a D.D. monster except during the damage step, you can target 1 D.D. monster in your graveyard. Any battle damage your opponent takes becomes halved for the rest of this turn. Also, special summon that monster. If you do, you take 1000 damage. You need to keep this in mind, because he is an incredible extender. He will help you with your extensions and get your searches with cards like your D.D. Griffon, but you also need to keep this in mind, because when you use his effect, your opponent takes half the damage that you would take. So, because a lot of people have seen, either from replays or that have played against, forget that this effect actually exists. And then his actual effect: if this card is normal special summoned, you can target 1 D.D.D. monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use this effect once per turn, and then once per turn, you can tribute 1 other D.D. monster, then target 1 monster your opponent controls, and you banish it. As I've said, 99% of the times you will use him as a scale, because the 2 choices for your scales that you will have most of the time when you go into your D.D.D. Abyss King Gilgamesh would be, if you do not have, for example, good force into your hand, or you don't have a way to go into your D.D. Griffon, most of the times you would use your D.D. Cerberus with the 1 Go D.D.D. Divine Zero King Rage. And the most standard pendulum scale that you would use, the second one would be 1 D.D. Orthros with the 1 D.D.D. Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok, as I just described to you guys. Usually these are the standard scales, but there can be situations where you would want to go into your, instead of using the 2 examples that I just gave you, you could instead go into a D.D. Savant Thomas. His pendulum effect is, during your main phase, you can add 1 face-up D.D. pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. Basically, he's one of the ways in which you can recur your D.D. Griffon, for example, if you did not use his special summon effect from hand, if you already control a D.D. monster on the field. And then his actual effect, you can target 1 D.D. card from in your pendulum zone, destroy that card, and if you do, you special summon a level 8 D.D.D. monster from your deck in defense position, but for the rest of this turn, its effect is Veneer negated. Also, any damage your opponent takes becomes halved. Basically, as I've just described, this is one of the scales that you could potentially use to get your D.D. Griffon back into your hand, to use your special summon effect to extend it further. but most of the times that won't happen. But still, just described it to you, this combo, in case you go into it. And then lastly, for the one-offs, we're playing 1 go D.D.D Divine Zero King Rage. His pendulum effect: if you take effect damage, you take no damage. If you normal summon one level 5 or higher DD monster, you can do it without tributing, and you can use its effect once per turn. And then his actual effect: when this card declares an attack, if your opponent's life points is 4,000 or less, you can make this card gain attack equal to your opponent's life points until the end of this turn, cannot be destroyed by battle, and also you take no damage from battle involved with this card. And then you can tribute one other monster and apply one of these effects until the end of this turn. This card can attack directly. The second effect is your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in the spell and trap zones, and the third effect is your opponent cannot activate card effects in their hands or graveyard. He's one of the ways where you can easily OTK, but most of the times it won't be necessary. Him being a pendulum scale with the combination of DD Cerberus is more than enough. That's why it's called the Rage package, because you also, when he's as a pendulum scale, you don't take effect damage from your Dark Contract gates, which is quite incredible, let's be real. And now for the 2-offs is D.D. Orthros. His pendulum, it's a level 4 tuner. His pendulum effect: once per turn, you can target one spell trap on the field and one other DD or Dark Contract card you control, and you can destroy them. And his actual effect: when you take battle or effect damage, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned to your field, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Fiend type monsters. So keep this in mind. If you use him with any other 4 to go into your DD Cursed King Siegfried, you're basically locked into only using Fiend type monsters from your extra deck. And last but not least, in my opinion, for the best DD monster for the deck is D.D. Griffon. He's a level 4, and its pendulum effect: you can target one Fiend monster you control, it gains 500 attack for each Dark Contract spell and trap with different names currently in your field or in your graveyard, then destroy this card. Basically, this is one of the ways in which you could use this as a pendulum scale, buff one of your monsters, send it on top of your extra deck, and then with your D.D. Savant Thomas, you're capable of recurring it back into your hand and then use its effect to special summon if you didn't already. And then its actual effect: if you control a DD monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and if this card is pendulum summoned, you can discard one DD or Dark Contract card, and then you draw one card. If this card is special summoned from your graveyard now, you can add one DD card from your deck to your hand except himself. Basically, with the recursion from the graveyard, when you special summon it, you're capable of basically searching the entirety of your DD monster lineup, and also you can search for your D.D.D headhunt. What it does, it's a normal trap. If you control the D.D.D monster, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, you take control of it until the end of this turn, but its effects are negated. It cannot declare an attack. Also, if it is a monster special summoned from the extra deck, it is also treated as a D.D.D monster. It is a phenomenal card, and one of the ways that you search it is most of the times, if not always, with your D.D.D Griffon with its monster effect when it is being special summoned from the grave into the field. One of the ways in which you can get it special summoned from the graveyard is, as I've just explained, with the Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok with his pendulum effect, or with the effect of the Flame King Genkis. This is how you can actually get your D.D.D headhunt every single time for a standard monster negate, and you also get it into your field, just like an Relinquish effect. And now that we are done with the monster lineup for the deck profile, let's go straight into the spell and traps. One Harpy Feather Duster, because there are a lot of back row decks currently in Master Duel for Diamond 1, and since you have Edlich with playing with the Adventure package, and then you also have a lot of combo decks that they can break, but they will be able to set an Infinite Permanence, a Crossout, a Gold by the Grave. Going with a Harpy's Feather Duster, most of the times you basically won from there, because they won't have any response, any interruptions other than the standard hand traps that you could have in hand. But maybe that is a Maxi or an Ash. You get the idea. Harpy's Feather Duster is always a one of guarantee into every single deck that I choose to play. Then for the field spell, we play one Dark Contract with a Patent License. If your opponent special summons a monster with the same card type, Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link as a D.D.D monster you control, except during the damage step, you can inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Also, while this card is on the field, your opponent cannot special summon monsters with the same card type as its special summon monster for the rest of this turn. Basically, if you have, as the card just described, any of the monsters from the extra deck as a D.D.D monster. For example, you could have one Abyss King, Gilgamesh, you could have one Cursed King, Siegfried. So Gilgamesh is a Link, Siegfried is a Synchro. Then you could have one of the Xyz, which is usually Wave King, High Caesar, and then you could also have Flame King, Genghis. You basically lock your opponent into only using one of these extra deck monsters or types once, which is quite incredible, and you also burn them. And then the second effect, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one D.D monster from your graveyard or one face-up D.D pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. And also it has a recursion effect, which is quite useful. Most of the times you will use this to recur something from the graveyard, but do not forget, because a Dark Contract card, it's usually a free distraction to get a free effect off of your Divisor King Deus Machinax. Then for the searchers for the deck, and one of the best starters because of the spell, Dark Contract with a Gate. Play obviously 2 copies of it, and what it does, during your main phase, you can add one D.D monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use effect once per turn, and during the standby phase, you take 1000 damage during your standby phase. One of the ways that you can negate the burn damage is with your Flame King High Genghis. If, for example, you know that your opponent won't have any spell or trap interruption into your turn, then you basically can negate this so you don't get the free 1k damage into yourself. Then we play one copy of Dark Contract with the Swamp King. During your main phase, you can fusion summon one Fiend Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. You can only use effect once per turn. If summoning a D.D Fusion monster this way, you can also banish monsters from your graveyard as material. Once per turn during the standby phase, again, you take 1000 damage. Basically, the Miracle Fusion for the deck. If you use monsters for the fusion summon as material from the graveyard, you banish them, and usually this is what you will do most of the time. An incredible card, but we play one copy of it because you will be able to search this every single time. With cards like your D.D Summon Kepler, etc. And then, as I've just described, the D.D Headcount, in which is a searchable trap with your D.D Griffon. Now that we are done with the main deck, I want to also show you, before we go into the extra deck, some other options that you could potentially add into your D.D deck that are also playable. And you can also play 3 copies of Small World, and with Small World, for example, you also need a bridge monster, and the bridge monster in this specific deck is Archfiend Eccentric. And usually what you would do is, with Small World, you will be able to use the Eccentric to bridge and get the search that you will need for your starters depending on your hand. Also, another choice that you could also play into your deck is D.D.D Vice King Requiem. He is a free extender into the field. What he does is Pendulum Effect. You can target any number of Dark Contract cards you control, destroy them. If you do, special summon this card from Pendulum Zone, then you can increase or decrease its level. We don't care about the decrease or decrease level most of the times, but because it's a free extender into the field, you can usually use him as a bit stick to destroy something off of your opponent, or just use it to kill him. And his actual effect is you cannot special summon monsters except D.D monsters. A D.D monster that was Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link summoned using this card on the field as material gains this effect. Once per turn, you can target one card to the field, shuffle one Dark Contract card from your field or graveyard into the deck, and if you do, destroy the target, then you gain 1000 life points. It's not the most common card that you would see being used on multiple deck profiles that you might have seen with the D.D archetype, but it's also a good option that you could potentially add. Another searcher that you could also add into the deck is 2 to 3 copies of Piri Rise Map. At the start of your main phase, you can add one monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, but halve your life points. After adding it to your hand until the end of the next turn, after this card was activated, you cannot activate this added monster's effect or the effects of cards with its name until you normal summon that monster or a card with its name. Basically, you pay half your life points, you use this, and you would search your D.D Summon Kepler, and then you would use its effect, get the Dark Contract with the Gate, and then you would search either your Griffon, etc., and go into your place. Basically go into your Gilgamesh. With a Gilgamesh, since you used a D.D Summon Kepler and the Griffon, you would go for scales with the D.D Cerberus and the D.D.D Divine Zero King Rage, get them as pendulum scales, and then pendulum summon them, get your D.D Griffon and the Summon Kepler back into the field, and then use the Cerberus effect on the Kepler, get him to level 4, go into Wave King Caesar, and then you get your plays going, basically. And then another trap that you could also add into this deck, and I'm mentioning this because in 1 day from now, actually tomorrow, we get a new pack from Master Duel in which Mirror Jade and a lot of Despia cards that were missing, Brand Fusion, etc., are going to be into Master Duel. And this is one of the cards in which you can actually counter Super Poly, but obviously you can also counter Floowandereeze, and it is Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. What it does, while you have 2 DD cards in your Pendulum Zone, your opponent cannot target monsters on the field with spell trap effects, tribute them for a tribute summon, nor use them as material for fusion, synchro, or exceed summon. And once per turn, during your standby phase, you also take 1000 damage. Basically, this card protects you from your monsters being not only targeted by spell and traps, but that also means that they cannot be used as a tribute fodder for Floowandereeze with her continuous spell, and also they will not be able to use them for super poly targets to basically remove them from the field freely, right? And this card basically stops them from doing that, which is quite incredible. But since I do not run into any Despia currently, or even Floowandereeze, because everyone is playing Adventure Tenyi, which is quite incredible, let's be real, this card is not as necessary now, but from tomorrow, as I've said, with the branded Despia support that is coming to Master Duel again, this might be relevant for you. That's why I'm showing it. Also, another card that I forgot to show you guys that is a one-off that you could potentially add into this deck is the 1-for-1 card. Send 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard, special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck. Again, it's similar to Piri-Rise map, but you basically don't have to pay half your life points, you just discard a monster, so you can special summon a D.D.D Savant Kepler from hand or usually deck, and then get your combos going. And now let's go straight into the extra deck. For the extra deck, we're playing 2 copies of D.D.D Flame King Genghis. He requires 2 D.D monsters. What he does, if another D.D monster is special summoned to your field while you control this monster, you can target 1 D.D monster in your graveyard and then you special summon it. And you can only use this effect once per turn. If this card is destroyed by battle, or this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target 1 Dark Contract card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Usually you use him to get your combos going because the resurrection effect helps you extend with your plays. Then we have D.D.D Flame High King Genghis, we play 1 copy of him. He requires a level 5 or higher D.D monster and 1 D.D monster. And then, same thing, if another D.D monster is normal or special summoned to your field while you control this monster, target 1 D.D monster in your graveyard, you special summon it. You can only use this effect once per turn, and once per turn, when a spell trap card or its effect is activated, you can negate the activation. And as you saw, once per your turn, so you can only negate a spell or trap into your turn, not into theirs, so keep this in mind. And then for the flex, not the flex copy, but for the one of the copies that you could potentially play around, because usually the extra deck is pretty tight, but usually the last spot is flexible, is 1 D.D.D Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok. He requires 2 D.D.D monsters. Once per turn, when an attack is declared involving this card, you can target 1 other D.D or Dark Contract card you control, return it to the hand. If you do, equip 1 face-up monster your opponent controls to this card, except the battling monster. This card gains attack equal to the combined original attack of the monster equipped to it by this effect, basically a relinquished effect. And we have this card not because we will get him normally out into the field by using one of the polymerization effects. No, we actually have him because if we read the D.D.D Abyss King Gilgamesh, let's go straight into him, we play 3 copies of, and he's basically so crucial into going to our combos. He requires 2 D.D monsters. If this card is special summoned, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except D.D monsters. Also, place 2 D.D Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck in your Pendulum zones, and if you do, you take 1000 damage. If this link summoned card is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster or by an opponent's card effect while in its owner's monster zone, you can special summon 1 D.D monster from your extra deck or graveyard in defense position. That's why I have Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok into the deck, because it's 1 free special summon in case one of the copies of my D.D Abyss King Gilgamesh gets destroyed by an attack or an opponent's card effect. It is one of the ways in which you can get him freely into the field as protection. Another target that you could potentially add into your deck and a free special summon for your Gilgamesh is also D.D.D Gust High King Alexander, which is a level 10 synchro. And his effect is, if 3 or more D.D.D monsters are on the field, this card gains 3000 attack. If another D.D monster is normal special summoned to your field while this monster is on the field, you can target one D.D monster in your graveyard and then you special summon it. Basically, you would add Gust High King Alexander into your deck if you're facing a lot of Adignister into the ladder, because they have the Arrival, the huge boss monster that usually has 5000 attack or even more. Gust High King Alexander is one of the ways in which, if you can manage to get him into 6k, which is pretty easy to be honest, you will be able to get their boss monster out and then you are capable of controlling the game from there on. So that's why I chose in this situation currently to play with Oblivion King, Caesar, Ragnarok. I usually go and change them in between games if I see that I start to get into to the Adignister deck, and then if they play first, they finish with the Arrival, and then if you cannot remove it otherwise, you're basically fucked most of the times. You can't even Nibiru it because it's unaffected by monsters. So, as I've said, D.D.D Gust High King Alexander is a good option for you to add to special summon freely if your Abyss King Gilgamesh gets destroyed by battle or card effect. And now for the synchro monsters, we're playing one D.D.D Cursed King Siegfried. He's a level 8. During either player's turn, you can target one face-up spell trap on the field. That target has its effect negated until the next standby phase. You can only use this effect once per turn. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you gain 1000 life points for each dark contract you control. Basically a free spell and trap negate into the field. And then for the other synchro that we play, and the last one, is one Baron de Flor for the negation of the target destruction. But you want to go into your Baron before you go into your D.D.D Abyss King Gilgamesh, because he will lock you into only using D.D monsters for the next of this turn. So a way for you to go into Baron de Flor, usually before the 5th summon, would be with using your one of D.D Orthros, and if you also had D.D Sphere Slime into your hand, you would use the Fusion Summon effect to get into one of the Flame King Genkis into the field, and then you would be able to either normal summon the Orthros, because if you special summon him, he will also lock you into Fiend types, and then you would, as I've said, normal summon him. He's a level 4 tuner, Flame King Genkis is a level 6, then synchro summon into getting a Baron, and then in your hand, before doing that, if you also had a D.D Griffon, for example, into your hand and something else for free extension, you would also use that, a D.D Lamia, for example, and then you could go first to the Baron, and then with the 2 last monsters that you had for extension, go into your Abyss King Gilgamesh and then play freely, because now you have the negate to basically stop the Nibiru if they have it. Then for the Xyz monsters, we're playing one D.D.D Wave King Caesar. He requires 2 level 4 Fiend type monsters. During either player's turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card. At the end of the battle phase, special summon from your graveyard as many monsters destroy this turn as possible, but during the next standby phase, you take 1000 damage for each monster special summoned by this effect. You will almost never use this effect. You will almost all the time get his graveyard effect by either destroying him or sending him to the graveyard to link summon. And then his most obvious and the best effect that he probably has, not all, probably, obviously has, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Dark Contract card from your deck into your hand. Basically one of the ways in which you can reliably search your Dark Contract with the Swamp King every single time by either destroying him with the Pendulum effect of D.D Orthros, or just using him and then one other D.D monster that you have to link summon a second or a third copy of your Abyss King Gilgamesh. And the reason that we have, as I just explained, 3 copies of him is because you want to use him to basically send the D.D monsters that you want to send to the graveyard to activate their effects. Then we have one D.D.D Marksman King Tell. He requires 2 level 5 monsters, but you can also Xyz summon this card by using a rank 4 D.D.D Xyz monster you control as the Xyz material. And then once per turn, during either player's turn, if you took any effect damage this turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, then target one face-up monster on the field. It loses 1000 attack and defense, and if it does, you inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. And again, the most important effect, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can send one DD or Dark Contract card from your deck to the graveyard. Basically what you would do is go into your Wave King Caesar, then go into the Mark Scheme Tell immediately on top of Wave King Caesar, activate his effect to burn your opponent, send any of the materials to the graveyard, and then use the King Tell to link summon or destroy him with effects like Orthros, as I just explained previously. Get his send effect to either send a Vice Typhon for more extension, or Dark Contract to the Paid License, or Necroslime for more extension, as I've said. And then, because you have DD Wave King Caesar into the graveyard now, you're capable with effects, with resurrection effects of your DD monsters, like your King Abyss Ragnarok or of your fusion monsters, to special summon him into the field, and then if you have a way to destroy him or link summon again, get his surge effect. So you can basically, this is basically how you combo off with this deck. Do you destroy your own monsters or you send them to the graveyard with ways like link summoning to get their surges off because they need to go into the graveyard. And then for the other Xyz that we have is D.D.D Wave Hiking Caesar. He requires 2 level 6 monsters. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster, e.e. Nibiru, e.e. Rite of Faramazir, Fusion Destiny, etc., you can detach mono material from this card, negate the activation. If you do, you destroy that card, and then you can make one other DD monster you control and this card gain 1800 attack until the end of this turn. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Dark Contract card from your deck into your hand. Basically, one of the other ways in which you can be Nibiru free if you can get him into the field. And how you get into him, you would use your 2 copies of D.D.D Flame King Genkis to basically, after you're done with their effects to special summon to extend, you would go into your Wave Hiking Caesar, so you can have the 2 negates for special summons or for the Nibiru, and it is also not once per turn, which is phenomenal, let's be real. Then we have 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus, Sky Thunder. Obviously Zeus, everybody knows what he does. He's one of the best board clears into the game currently. We have him because we have multiple Xyz monsters in our extra deck into our lineup, and he's usually not being used, let's be real, but it's also extremely nice to have him as an option if we need him. And last but not least, for the boss monster of the deck, we're playing 2 copies of D.D.D Divisor King Deus Machinex. His pendulum effect is, while you have a card in your other pendulum zone, you can target 1 pendulum monster you control or in your graveyard. You special summon the card in your other pendulum zone, and if you do, you place that targeted pendulum monster in your pendulum zone. You basically swap targets from the pendulum zone to the field, and the one that targeted from the graveyard, you put that into the pendulum zone, so you can play around with your pendulum zones with that. Then his actual monster effect is, you can also Xyz summon this card by using a D.D.D monster you control as material. You can only control 1 D.D.D Divisor King Deus Ex Machina next to your monster zone, and then once per chain, when a monster card your opponent controls activates its effect, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card or destroy 1 Dark Contract you control. If you do, attach that opponent's card to this card as material. Once per turn during your standby phase, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. His effect to basically suck one of your opponent's monsters when they activate their effect is not once per turn. You can basically spam it because it is once per chain. They will get their effect resolved, but because you will have a lot of Dark Contract cards into the field, you will be able to destroy them, right? And then you will be able to basically get his effect, the suck effect, to take one monster that activated their effects from your opponent's field, and you get it as material. And by that point, you then will have 2 materials on him, because the previous 1 material that he had was the monster that you used to go into him. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that the once per chain effect, when your opponent activates a monster effect, and then you will be able to basically attach it as material for King Deus Machinex, you will be able to sometimes actually use this effect for more than 3 times. And it is quite incredible. And with combination of D.D.D Headhunt, the disruption that this deck can actually get into the field is quite phenomenal. So let me go and actually show you guys into 1 quick combo tutorial to show you exactly what I mean with how many interruptions this deck can actually get, which is quite insane. And after we're done with the combo tutorial, we will go straight into the replays. Let's go. Alright, let's start with the combo tutorial. As you can see, we have a good hand to stop the Maxi, to stop a Nibiru, for example. We will start with normal summoning DD7 Kepler, activate his effect to search a Dark Contract. We will get the Dark Contract with the gate, immediately activate it, because we want to search a D.D.D monster. We will activate it. We will get into our hand, in this case, you will get the D.D Griffon. Special summon the D.D Griffon to the field with its effect. If you control a D.D monster, we can special summon him, and then we will immediately go into link summoning using these 2 into the Abyss King Gilgamesh. Get him into the field, and then for scales, we will activate his effect, obviously. Now we are locked into only using basically D.D monsters. So what we will use for scales in this situation will be one D.D. Cerberus and the one Go D.D.D. Divine Zero King Rage. And the reason that we do this is because we have the D.D. Savant Kepler to special summon from the Pendulum Zone. You will see what I mean. We will also special summon the Savant Copernicus that we have into the hand. Get the Kepler, the Griffon, and the Copernicus into the field. Then what we will do, the effect that we just missed with the Griffon is the draw, but it's quite irrelevant. We did not really care because we also wanted to activate the Copernicus effect. We will activate the Copernicus effect to send the Necroslime into the graveyard. And then what we will do is we will actually use, in this situation, if you did not have the free extender, what you would usually do is activate the Cerberus effect to make the D.D. Savant Kepler into a level 4. And then we will use the Savant Kepler and the Griffon to go into the D.D.D. Wave King Caesar, which is our Xyz for the situation. And then we will immediately, what we will do, overlay on top of him with the King Tail, get the King Tail into the field, activate his effect, we will detach the Wave King, target himself, we burn the opponent for 3000, and then what we will do is, we will, before we activate the effect of Necroslime, we will get another Gilgamesh by using the two monsters that we have into the field. Actually, no, let's use the Gilgamesh, the one Gilgamesh that we have in the field. Let's keep the Copernicus still. Get the King Tail into the graveyard to get the search off. We will be able, in this situation, we will be able to send the Vice Typhon into the graveyard. Then what we'll do, we will activate the Necroslime from the graveyard to banish itself. We want to get the Flame King Genghis into the field. We will banish the Necroslime, and in this situation we will choose the one D.D. Savant Kepler. We will banish these two, get the Genghis into the field, and now when he's on the field, if we special summon again, we will be able to special summon something else. Now we will activate the Vice Typhon effect to special summon the Flame High King Genghis to banish itself, and the other target that we want to banish this situation is the King Tail. Most of the times we want to need him to recur him again for the second turn, so we'll banish these two, get the King Tail into the field, and then we activate the Flame King Genghis effect because we special summoned, and then in this situation we can special summon the D.D. Griffon and the Wave King Caesar. You also need to keep this in mind, the targets that you can special summon every single time. We will get the Griffon in this situation, special summon him into the field, and because we did that, we also have, again, we're going to chainlink one D.D. Griffon to chain block our opponent, chainlink 2 the special summon from High King Genghis, and we will target our Wave King Caesar to special summon him into the field. The chain will resolve, we will get the High King Caesar into the field, and Greedy Griffon will be able to search us the D.D.D. Headhunt. We will immediately set this, in case we forget which we want, but let's be real. And then, as you can see what we can do now, to send cards into the graveyard, we will go for the other D.D.D. Flame King, and we will send the Wave King Caesar that we have with the Copernicus that we have into the field, use these two, and you will see why. Get the second copy of D.D.D. Abyss King Gilgamesh into the field, activate the search effect of Wave King Caesar, and then in this situation you can also add the Dark Contract or the field, but let's be real, 99% of the times, unless you draw this, you will search for this every single time. Add this into our hand, immediately activate this, and then activate the effect to basically fusion summon from the graveyard to get the second copy of Flame King Genghis into the field, and then we will use the Abyss King Gilgamesh and the Caesar that we have into the graveyard. You could also use the D.D. Griffon, but let's be real, most of the times it's not as necessary. Get the second copy into the field, and now what you can do is use these two, because they're both 6, to get the negazed from the D.D. Wave King Caesar as well into the field. And last but not least, we will finish with our one copy of D.D.D. Divisor King Deus Machinex by using the one that we have on top and get him down into the field. And with this specific endboard, as you can see, we have the 2 interruptions of Wave King Caesar, we also have the multiple interruptions with the King Machinex, and we also have the D.D.D. Headhunt. In this situation, obviously, you would want to have the D.D.D. Divisor King on top because you want to have space to steal that opponent's monster, but basically as a reference I just did that. And also as you've probably seen, you could also have used the D.D.D Griffon for the Miracle Fusion of the Swamp King, activating its effect, and then you would also have more free space to use, but most of the times they would have something to disrupt your board. Basically that was it for the combo tutorial, so let's go straight to the replays. The first replay, we're playing against Floowandereeze, and we're playing first. We have an incredible hand. We will start with the D.D Sword Slime, using the 2 copies to go into the Flame King Genki's into the field. He's going to immediately Infinite Permanence it, to basically stop the special summon. We're going to normal summon the Kepler, get the Dark Contact with the gate, activate its effect, to search the Necro Slime. Then we're going to special summon the Griffon from hand, go into the Gilgamesh, and then we'll start comboing off basically. We'll get the scales, the rage package basically, with Kerberos and Zero King Rage. We'll special summon, pendulum summon the D.D Griffon and the Kepler, discard the Necro Slime to draw with the effect. With the pendulums, if D.D Griffon is being special summoned to the field, you can discard the D.D card, the Dark Contract, to draw 1. We discarded the Necro Slime, and then we drew the Orthros. We're going to activate the Cerberus effect, change the Kepler level to 4, then go into the Wave King Caesar, go into King Tel, activate this effect as you saw from the combo tutorial, and then activate the Necro Slime, banish the Sewer Slime to get the other Genkis into the field. Going to use the Xyz, the King Tel, and the other Gilgamesh to link to get the King Tel to the graveyard, and then going to chain link 1 King Tel to chain block, and then chain link 2 Flame King Genkis to special summon targeting the Griffon. The chain will resolve. We will get the Griffon into the field, and then King Tel will send the Vice Typhon to the graveyard. D.D Griffon will search us the D.D Headhunt. I'm going to activate the Vice Typhon from the graveyard to banish the Kepler to get the High Flame King Genkis into the field. Use the 2/6 Flame King Genkis to go into the Wave High King Caesar, fuck these names man, to get him into the field for the two negations. And then we also get the special summon effect from the Flame High King Genkis to get the Wave King Caesar to the field to get his effect again. We're going to set the Headhunt, activate Sword Slime to special summon the Orthros. Now we will go into the D.D.D Cursed King Siegfried, and then we will use the Wave King Caesar and overlay on top of him the King Deus Machinex. And basically we have multiple interruptions with him. We have 2 interruptions with Wave King High Caesar, with Wave King Caesar, sorry. We also have 1 spell interrupt negation with Cursed King Siegfried, and we also have the D.D.D Headhunt with basically only using 2 cards, and Nibiru in hand as well, but it's obviously useless against Floowandereeze most of the times. He will activate Dark Lure no more. He's going to normal summon the Egglen, and I'm going to instantly chain D.D.D Headhunt. The chain will resolve. The Egglen will come into my field. His effect will be negated, and he's going to end his phase basically. He's basically done. He didn't have anything else. We drew the Copernicus. I'm going to chain High Flame King Genkis to negate the burn effect, but it's irrelevant because we have the Zero King Zero King Rage, sorry, as a pendulum scale. He basically negates any burn effect, and then we just straight up attack him for game. So that was it basically for Floowandereeze. If we finish with this board every single time, they usually, even with, as you saw, with Dark Lure no more, 1 D.D.D Headhunt was enough to get us the win. Let's go and show you guys the second replay. The second replay, we're playing first again against Adventure combo. We will start with D.D Sword Slime. He's going to instantly max CS. The chain will resolve because we cannot stop it, unfortunately. We're going to use the D.D Sword Slime and the Necro Slime from hand to go into the Flame King Genkis. Going to activate the Dark Contact with the gate to search the Savan Kepler. We're going to normal summon him to search the Dark Contact with Painted License, activate it from the field, and then immediately go into the Abyss King Gilgamesh, get the scales into our field. I'm going to end the phase, and you will ask, why the fuck did I search for the Dark Contact with the Painted License instead of something else? The reason for that is, in case our opponent is playing a Link Spam deck, we basically lock him into doing that because that is on the field. He will need to go into the battle phase or destroy it somehow, destroy the Abyss King Gilgamesh for him to be out of the lock. So basically that was why I did that. I'm going to end there. He's going to actually normal summon Chiwen and set 1 and pass. Even with Maxi, he drew 2 to 3 cards. He drew 2 cards, and he actually bricked, which was great for us. Turn 3, we will draw the D.D Sword Slime, which is quite incredible. The burn will not happen because we have 0 king raids as a pendulum scale. I'm going to activate Harpy's Feather Duster, and he's actually going to chain 9 Pillars of Yangzing to negate, which is fine for us, honestly. He's going to destroy his Chiwen from the field in order for the effect to activate. He will special summon Bian, but that's irrelevant. I'm going to activate our contact with a gate, and he will chain Maxi again. And at this point, because I know that he bricked, I refuse to give him any draws. Like, I will just end with this if I recall. I will get the Flame Genkis into the field. Actually, scratch that. I guess I'm going for the OTK. I guess I'm misremembering. Activate the Vice Typhon from the graveyard to banish itself and the Sphere Slime to get the Flame High King Genkis to the field. Get the special summon for the other Flame King Genkis. Go into the Wave High King Caesar so he will not be able to Nibiru us. Pendulum summon the Kepler. To add the Dark Contract, he's going to Ash us here. The chain will resolve. And I'm going to activate the Sphere Slime to special summon the Savant Thomas from hand. Then the Genkis will get the special summon, get the other monster into the field, go into the Divisor King Machinex, go into battle phase, and basically just straight up OTK our opponent with 2 Maxis. You're going to instantly go for the Infinite Impermanence. I don't know why. I'm going to chain Flame High King Genkis, and then in response to Gamma, I will just chain my Wave King High Caesar. He won't be able to do anything. The chain will resolve. I'm going to stop the Gamma. I'm going to buff him at the D.D.D Divisor King Machinex. I'm just going to finish him just straight up to that. Unfortunately, he bricked, but we played through 2 Maxis, which was more than enough for me. Let's be real. Let's go and show you guys now the third replay. For the third replay, we're playing second against Zombie World. He's going to normal summon Unizombie to send the Banshee from hand, and then on his second effect to set from deck, we're going to immediately Ash. The chain will resolve. He's going to Ready Fusion. I'm going to instantly Maxi. The chain will resolve again. He's going to special summon Sea Monster of Theseus into the field. He's going to use this to go into Haki Fibrax. We're still drawing. He's going to special summon the Glow Bloom, go into Linkuribo. Then he's going to activate his Glow Bloom to banish, to special summon, or get to his hand, sorry, what is called his Doom King Balladrock, and then he's going to also chain the Necroworld Banshee to get the Zombie World into the field. And if you have a field spell into the field with Glow and Bloom, instead of adding it to your hand, you special summon it, which means you would have a negate. So basically I'm forced to use Nibiru here on this chain. Going to Nibiru. The chain will resolve. We're going to clear the field. He's also going to Maxi to draw for 2. The chain will resolve. She will draw 2. Necroworld Banshee will get the Zombie World into the field, and the Glow Bloom will add him, or not, sorry, special summon him, the Doom King Balladrock. He's going to use this 2 to go into Vampire Sucker, and he's going to set 1 and pass. We have a pretty solid hand. We will actually draw the D.D.D Griffin. On standby phase, he will special summon the Doom King Balladrock. Vampire Sucker will be Chainlink 1 to draw. Doom King Balladrock will be Chainlink 2 to banish the target from the field. He's going to banish my Nibiru. He's going to draw 1. Going to normal summon Copernicus. He will chain Doom King Balladrock to negate, but now we're actually free to play at this point. Chain will resolve. We're going to special summon D.D. Griffon from the hand, and then go to activate the Sphere Slime to use it and the Savant Kepler to go into the Flame King Genki. Sorry, he's going to actually chain Super Poly, which fucking sucks. He's going to discard the Called by the Great from hand and use the Genkis and the Griffon to go into his Nether Soul Dragon. Going to banish the Dirty Sphere Slime to activate its effect to special summon from hand. To get the Savant Kepler from hand, he's going to Ashtas for the search. Fucking hell, that sucks, but what can you do? The 2 draws that he got from the Maxi on my Nibiru was actually good. I'm going to use this to go into Abyss King Gilgamesh. For the scales, get the Rage package again. Special summon this 2 force. Discard the Go Rage to draw the Harpy's Feather, which was quite insane. Use it immediately to destroy the Zombie World. Then use this 2 to go to Wave King Caesar, because we were locked through Zombie World, and Wave King Caesar requires Fiend types. And then he just scoops because he knew what was coming. That was it for the third replay. Let's go and show you guys the fourth and final replay for this deck profile for D.D.Ds. For the fourth and final replay, we're playing second again against Adventure Tenyi, which is quite insane. He's going to set 2, set up 1 monster face down and pass as well. He probably bricked. We're going to instantly Harpy's Feather Duster. He's going to Maxias. The chain will resolve. As you saw, we destroyed his Infinite Permanence and Called by the Grave. That's why I've said in the deck profile that Harpy's Feather Duster is insane to have for every single deck that you choose to play. I'm going to use the Dark Contract with the Gate, get the Griffon, normal summon it, and go into the battle phase. I refused to give him the maxi draws. The extra draws that he could get, there was no point because I knew that he bricked. So I just normal summoned the D.D.D Griffon and attacked his face down, which was Jet Synchron. And I'm going to just end my phase here and hope for the best. Some people would say that this was a misplay. I could just go further and just try to kill him, but I did not want to risk him getting a lucky Nibiru draw and then basically finishing me and then OTKing me literally in 1 turn because of the draws of Maxi. So I would rather play it safe, not give him any draws and go from there. And then on his draw phase, he draws obviously something. As you saw, he had the Nibiru in hand. Either he drew it or he had it in hand. I have to assume that he just drew it because, as you will see, he special summoned the Jet Synchron by discarding it, and then she will normal summon the Maxi, which is obviously, this is what he drew, to go into the Crystal Hockey Firebrax, and then I will not bore you with the standard combo. He will go into Crystal Hockey Firebrax, get into Auroradon, the chains will resolve, get the tokens into the field, then destroy Auroradon with the token, get the Olion, go into the Danglong. You get the idea, you're probably bored to death into seeing this combo. Search the 9 pillars for the negate, go into his Baron, get the Chiwan into the field. Azuna will also activate her effect from graveyard to banish, to special summon the Vishuda, use the Vishuda then Chiwan to get the Draco Berserker. He will then activate Baron to floor, destroy my Dark Contract, go to battle phase, destroy my Griffon, attack for 3k, and now he has 2 interruptions, 1 Omnigate, 1 banish on effect, and then 1 set. I'm going to draw the D.D. Griffon, which is a really good draw. Going to normal summon the Copernicus. He will activate the Draco Berserker to banish instead of negating, which was surprising, honestly. Copernicus will resolve. We're going to send the Necro Slime. We're going to activate D.D. Lamia, sending the other Copernicus, and he's actually going to negate the D.D. Lamia. I don't know why the fuck he did that. That was honestly such a misplay from him. Lamia will get destroyed. Then I'm going to activate the Necro Slime, banishing it and the Lamia to get the Flame King Genghis into the field. I'm going to special summon the Griffon. And then Genghis will activate to get the Copernicus again in the field. Use these 2 to go into the Gilgamesh, get the Pendulum Scales, the Orthros, and the Oblivion King Ragnarok. Special summon the 2 force from the extra deck. Go into the Wave King Caesar, go into the King Tell, and you go into the standard combo. Activate this effect to reduce the damage from Baron. Activate the Orthros to destroy my King Tell and his back row. His back row was actually the 9 pillars. Activate the King Tell to send the Vice Typhon. Activate the Vice Typhon to banish him and King Tell to special summon the High King Genghis. And then the special summon as well from Ragnarok to get the Wave King Caesar into the field. And now that we did that, I'm going to be dealing half the damage to my opponent, so I cannot actually kill him in this turn, but we can completely clear the board. Get the other special summon from Flame King Genghis, get the Griffon, search the D.D.D hand, use this 2 to go into the other Gilgamesh, activate the High King Caesar to search the Dark Contract, activate its effect. We're going to search the 7 Kepler, going to use him and the Search Line, that's why I searched, to get the other D.D. Flame King Genghis to the field, go into the King Machinex from using the 1 Gilgamesh, clear his field. I will have to suicide my Deviser King to his Machina, unfortunately, but that's fine for us. Going to deal 2000 damage, use this 2 to go into the Wave King Caesar, and then set the D.D. hand and get the other D.D.D. Deviser King that we have, and end on multiple interruptions. My opponent will just draw the 1, set, and pass. We basically have won at this point. I'm going to just speed it through, draw the Maxi, just stop the burn with the Wave King, search the Kepler. It's irrelevant what I do at this point, I have won. Just basically get the Pendulum Summons, just attack straight up and be done with the game, right? So pretty much that was it for the deck profile, guys. I genuinely hope that you enjoyed this. D.D.D is one of the decks that requires a lot of practice to get it right, but if you manage to do so, it is such a fun and incredible deck, and most of the times your opponents will not know what to stop, what to interrupt, which is a great thing about decks like this. But either way, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll be seeing you to the next one.